Good morning. Our next presentation is going to be AMI or MI, missing outreach opportunities to use meter data and customer portals.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. I am Nate Conroy. I am from MeterHero. I'm a former teacher. I'm joined here today momentarily by William Granger, who promised me he'd be sitting in the front row at 10:20, so I'll make sure we all give him a hard time when he walks in through the door in a moment. I'm also joined by Melissa Ruther. I should say William is from the city of Sacramento, our partner on this project. Also joined by Melissa Ruther from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point and their K-12 energy education program. They've been a partner of ours for a number of years. Hey, William, welcome. Melissa was unable to join us in person, but she's right here up on the computer in case we have questions later about energy connections. The goal of this presentation is to talk to you a little bit about our effort over the past couple of years to use real utility data as a strategy to engage school children in ways that are impactful both in terms of water savings, but also in terms of equity and empowerment. And so these are kind of lessons learned. In reality, I'd like this to be sort of my chance as an educator to convince you that you have a powerful force for good in your utility data, and the schools would be great partners to work with on that, and some tips on how we do that. I never asked how I flip to the next one. Did you give me the little... Right there. So this all started because we decided to follow teachers' lead. So I met with Rochelle, a high school science teacher in Milwaukee, and she told me, she said, my students are awesome at filling out worksheets, and I hate it. And this is a huge problem for science education, in that we're losing a lot of young people who see math and science as plug and chug worksheets with predetermined outcomes. And so Rochelle helped us understand that, gosh, if we could do something with utility data, that student's own personal data is inherently relevant to them. If we can figure out how to use that, that would help us to close this STEM gap, to get more students to see this stuff as meaningful in their life. And we were really skeptical. She actually said to us, she said, well, could we just, the bills come, but they're quarterly or they're monthly. It's not really that interesting of data for students. Could we just teach them how to read the meters themselves? Those are already there at their home or apartment building. Could we just have them read those? And we said, well, they're usually like way down in the basement or they're outside by the street. And she said, oh, like a scavenger hunt? And then we said, yeah, but sometimes there's dirt in there. The students are gonna have to kind of bend over. And she said, oh, yes, because my students do science on the couch on their iPad. And in the real world, they need to learn that real science is about getting out in nature, bending over sometimes, getting a little dirty, finding data. And then we said, yeah, but some of these meters are weird. They look different. It's not exactly easy to read them. And she said, awesome, because there's this next generation science standard, and later we learned that TEKS have a very similar standard, that says students will follow a step-by-step procedure to gather data. So she's like, you're telling me that the meters, we can teach them those 3 steps and they can gather data? Sounds awesome. And then she said, but when they gather the data, don't just have it be this longitudinal chart. Orient it around authentic inquiry. Because that's what we're trying to teach students how to do, is how to do data analysis, how to set up experiments and think like an engineer or scientist. So we built the software so that students actually use the AWE water calculator to do a prediction of what their home's usage is going to be. Then they do baseline data collection. What is it actually like? And it turns out, right, that your actual usage is oftentimes very different from what you think it is and what you predict it is. And then they implement a water efficiency best practice, and then they take data on the difference between their usage after the implementation of that best practice and before, right? So we're doing data analysis in the context of experimental design. And the teachers were right. We actually had researchers from Marquette University and Loyola Chicago who were very interested in this strategy of engaging students with real-world data in terms of the effect on their self-efficacy. how do I see myself as somebody who can make a positive difference in my community, as well as how does this impact closing the STEM gap? How do we get more, especially women, especially students of color, seeing themselves as mathematicians and as scientists? And the positive results from that study were randomized controlled trial with about 550 students in Milwaukee. That was published in an elementary school journal. And then listening to teachers, they said, stop telling me that this curriculum could be used anywhere. It fits everywhere. Because they said that puts the burden on us to figure out where to put it. And so they said, actually, one of the best places to put this is in AP Advanced Placement, Environmental Science, because we have an exam. We all take the exam on May 3rd, 2022. And then we have 3 weeks afterwards where we have to do something. But we're cramming for the exam, and this type of project would be the ideal thing that we get into the year on. It's hands-on, it's different, it's not another paper or report. And so help us by giving us a very, very specific time where this would fit. And again, we piloted this in Sacramento. And again, one of the teachers really said that this was a perfect fit to their year, end of the year. And they like it because it brings forth all of these topics that they've been covering during the year, related to all sorts of things. And then what's been really nice is that an added benefit of this AP Environmental Science focus is that we can actually look up all the schools in an area that offer this course. And like in Sacramento, what we did is we tried to find schools that were nearby neighborhoods that had a strong saturation of smart meter installations, so that we could feel fairly confident that a large percentage of the students using this program are going to utilize their AMI data. They're going to create a portal with their family, and they're going to use the data as a part of this program. But again, because we also know the locations of these high schools, we also map that against the disadvantaged communities map in Sacramento and try to prioritize outreach to those schools so that we could use this as a targeted outreach program to reach more disadvantaged communities who we want to see more of them using things like the AMI portal to get legal alerts, to find out about rebates and all that kind of good stuff. The second thing we want to really do is make sure that we're empowering students. And that means not telling them what to do. But the amazing thing is that things incredible happen when you do that with students. One of the first instances we did this was in Mequon, Wisconsin. And we had a student who is a 4th grader who was tracking their data. They saw that it was like 150, 150, 150, and then it shot up to 2,000. And they said, your program broke. But they brought in photos of their meter, and with their classmates identified that in fact they were collecting data correctly. They took mom and dad downstairs and they found a major leak in the baseboards under the house. And this is in Mequon, where this house was potentially going to get a bill 90 days later, right? So this 4th grader, using data analysis, saved their family tons of money, and then they didn't stop there. They fixed the leak, and the student continued tracking the data and said, yep, it went back down to our normal usage. We fixed it, right? Think about the empowerment in the sense of what data and experimentation can do for a student when you allow them to use it like that. Another thing that's really important is teachers want us to make sure that we're giving students a chance to communicate their learning. So oftentimes this is in form of like a video that they do, or maybe a report. But it's really in education we call this student choice and voice. It's really important to allow the students to reflect and describe what they did and why they did it. This was a program that we ran in Wisconsin with funding from the major energy utilities there. And we did a little, what I wanted to say here is that related to equity, which is important, the teachers and the students wanted us not to make this competition about who could use the least, who could save the most. Because for some homes, it's a lot harder to get your family to make a big investment. Instead, what they wanted to do is they wanted us to judge them on the quality of their experimental design and on the quality of their communication about what they did. Even if their data showed that what they tried didn't result in a ton of water savings, the point was that they were given the opportunity to show their thinking, right? And to show their next steps and contribute to that community of scientists. So we gave them a flume and a sense monitor that could be used at their home or school. And then also really important, and this is why William is here, is that we want to make sure that we're empowering students by actually connecting them with action that they can take to improve things, right? They're not just learning this so that later in life they can become a water-wise homeowner. We actually want them to be helping to take action. Again, these are 17 and 18-year-olds. They know how to use computers and they know how to talk to their parents about signing up for an assistance program, learning about career opportunities that are available there on the local level. And more than anything, right, we really wanted to drive them towards signing up for the utility portal so that they could see that more advanced data that they'd be able to collect on their own, see history and that kind of thing. All of that being said, this presentation focuses a lot on our AMI partnership. We've also learned that it's really important to provide options for data collection because you're always going to have students who are coming from outside the service territory or students who are in a home situation where maybe they're facing housing insecurity, right? They're not going home. And so you need to provide opportunities for them. And teachers, they want to implement a program where 100% of their students can participate, right? Regardless of their home situation. So it's been really awesome. We had students who included screenshots of this is a Badger Beacon portal, the time before they implemented an efficiency strategy, the time afterwards. But we also had students like Jelson here who wasn't able to collect data at home, but he monitored the meters at the tapas bar where he worked. And the tapas bar had 3 locations. They always paid the bill the same because they get the bill at different times and it was like whatever. And Jelson monitored for the first time all 3 of those locations simultaneously. They discovered that one of their locations had like 30% more usage that they couldn't explain by just more people coming in the doors. And because of Jelson's data analysis, they determined that they had a chef who was de-thawing the meat by just letting the water run. And they were able to use the data to talk to that chef, but not in a paternalistic way where the chef got offended and quit, but in a way that was like, help us solve this problem, right? So again, the power of a 17-year-old bringing in their data to solve these issues, right away. And then what we also do, this is why I wanted to make sure to have an energy partner on the call as well. It's really important that students can participate. And so we have instances where maybe a student is in multifamily housing where they don't have access to a water meter or to a data portal. So we've expanded our program such that they can also track their natural gas or their electricity meter, because those are often sub-metered, or at least the natural gas meter. It might be for the whole building, but it's outside, so they can access that. This also means that they can track the school's meter, or in Jelson's case, they can track where they work. But that being said, we've also had some really neat things where even if the students, another thing that's worked really well is we brought in the teachers. So the teachers, as you might imagine, it's like when you run into your teacher at the grocery store and they're like a real person. The students get really tickled to monitor their teacher's water use. And so we had an issue. I wasn't on this call, but William was. The teacher over Zoom, right, COVID time with their students, brought up her AMI portal with the students. And real time, William let her know that she had a toilet leak. And she said that she was getting like very low participation from students kind of during the COVID year. But she said, oh my gosh, the chat was lit up with people letting me know, hey, Senna, Mrs. Vasquez, she's got a leaky toilet, right? But then they fixed her. And she said after that, I said, hey everybody, this is a service that you should all check out with your families. Teachers are deeply trusted in the community, especially in minority communities, right? So to have a teacher who's endorsing the AMI portal as something helpful and something related to their education is so powerful when it comes to getting families to think that this might be something good for them. And then interestingly, we had a teacher also in Sacramento who was outside of the service area, and we sent her a flume. And she hooked up the flume, and this is all true, and was in class the next day with her students, and she got a push alert about a leak at her house in her class. And so they pulled up her flume data and again talked about how we've just spent all year learning in environmental science class about the importance of small actions, what we can all do. And oh my gosh, here's an example of me, the teacher. I gotta go fix my toilet, which is open and it's using 3.7 gallons per minute. So powerful stuff when you can engage the teacher as well. And with that, that's our story. We're excited, to see how we can build on this, and would love your feedback, your discussion. Again, William is here in case there's any questions kind of directed towards the utility partner side. Also, Melissa is standing by in case there's any questions related to kind of the energy side of this partnership as well. So thank you very much.
Yes, you were also collecting energy data. Were you able to get any hot water use tying in on this?
So the question related to hot water use, and so definitely, right? That's a topic that, yes. So yes, right, because it relates to both. And so students are really, what we do is we teach students about different efficiency strategies, best practices, and we highlight the fact that ones that relate to hot water could have a multiple benefit. And so the teachers like this because we actually have a lot of students who monitor their water and their energy at the same time. So they're looking for, kind of dual benefit in their data. So definitely hot water is something that we try to emphasize.
My other question is what was the granularity of your data? How was the AMI system giving you data?
How granular is your AMI, Bill?
So our system is every 3 hours, so there's a 3 hour lag. So it's pretty fast relative to AMI systems in general. Not as fast as one, but pretty fast.
There's I think a question came up. Next one right there.
I may have missed this at the beginning. I have two questions. One, is this at the high school level? And two, you said that you wanted the students to read the meter, then they got access to the AMI portal. So did they have to physically read the meter, or could they just go on the portal and look at their water?
Good question. So the first part was about the level, and the second part about do they have to use the portal. We actually started this program, as I mentioned, with fourth graders, and we've done it at middle school. We really like, over the years, and actually I meant to thank Marin Municipal, Tarrant Regional Water District, Portland Water Bureau, a lot of partners have helped us kind of refine this over the years. We just like that high school level because there's that specific niche fit. We like working with middle school as well. It just seems to be that the high school teachers go, oh my gosh, this doesn't add something to my plate. This is something that I need to do because we were gonna watch a video at the end of the year. This is so much better. The issue with, if they have access to an AMI portal, we link right to it on their dashboards. We encourage them to use that. But again, we know that 100% of the students are not gonna have access to that. And so we always have available the idea to do a manual read. It's been interesting, again, like listening to teachers, even if they have 100% of their students who could do AMI, they still like them to go find the meters just to make that connection of like, oh, there's a pipe out in the street that's like bringing water. And it's amazing, the students are like, so wait a minute, so all the water I use, like this thing turns and it like counts my, it's like, oh, it doesn't just come from below the sink, right? So, yeah.
Very, very interesting work. It's really exciting, kind of working with the schools and everything. You said you kind of refined it over the years. Are you still doing like tailored programs at different ages, or are you kind of sticking with, high school, and how does that work?
Yeah, so currently we have like kind of 3 versions. We have a version that's specifically aligned to the next generation science standards. That's not every state, that's a number of states. We started working in Texas and they said it cannot mention the next generation science standards anywhere. For a long time we actually didn't work in Texas because we thought, gosh, the TEKs are different. Turns out that like the language is almost identical. It's just, you just can't say next gen standards. So we have a TEKs specific version, mostly at the middle school level. And then we have this version specifically for the AP Environmental Science, which is a national thing. I'll tell you that they're all very, very similar, right? Because at its heart, like doing real world data analysis, that's sort of a part of a scientific experiment, is a universally sought after thing. So they're all very similar, just small tweaks.
What states have you started this program in or have adopted it, I guess? I've heard a couple different, but I just wanted maybe a total.
I think So pretty early on, we got a little contract with a group called Project Lead the Way, which you may have heard of. They're an engineering curriculum. They also have an environmental science. So that has put us in over half of the states in the U.S. Specifically, though, we started this in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so I have a big presence in Wisconsin, and then, as you might imagine, California, more and more in Texas. I live in Oregon, so Oregon. Anyway, so some more concentrated states, but generally, it tends to be more arid areas. Although it's interesting because we do the energy piece, there's interest in, again, some of the Midwestern states or areas where you might not think of like water scarcity, but there's an energy component that they have. Good question.
This is awesome. How are you funded?
We are funded through our partnerships with the water utilities and with the energy utilities. We do sometimes we sometimes have school districts that go, hey, like, we'll just buy it, we'll just do it. We got our start, again, I'm just a teacher, so I've won awards and pitched myself into some ed tech accelerator in New Orleans, and that's like how we got our starting funding. But then after that, it's just been all trying to work out contracts and find the right pricing. AWE has been huge because people have said, gosh, here's how we gotta set up the pricing, or here's how we gotta change this so that it says that. So I really appreciate it. I don't come from the utility world, so it's been wonderful to sort of like tailor things to how partners would want it tailored.
I'm just curious, like, what you do with the data if it kind of lives with the teacher and students, because I see benefits from, improving mindset, behavioral, cultural change, and then also the AMI adoption, because I think there's been other discussions about resistance to, signing on to the customer portal being a challenge. And so having the students come prepared about, hey, we should do this. I guess some of the benefits and how the data is shared.
What we're really excited about is that this is a 3 to 4 week unit. So students aren't even just signing on. They're not just like signing up for the portal. They are daily going to it and engaging in it. And we have great stories of parents being engaged and all that kind of good stuff. So we do not directly link with the AMI data. So there's no like API connection or whatever. The student data, because of laws around student privacy, we don't collect student name or anything like that. There's no, we're not interested in that. We don't even store the data, for a long term. We don't use it to do anything. We do generate reports, and we just delivered a report to William about, some of the engagement statistics we see. Again, trying to prove that, like, this is being used. Here's some of the interesting things. Here's some of the efficiency best practices that students chose can be really interesting. Melissa maybe can talk to this, or maybe we get to it, but we did a pilot there where they gave out kits, efficiency kits, and the students reported on which ones they did. And very, very low numbers said we used the insulated pipe wrap. And we presented that back to them, and they said, you know what, we've been thinking that insulated pipe wrap doesn't get used very much. And these students in New Berlin, Wisconsin, helped convince us that maybe we won't do insulated pipe wrap again, because nobody seems to want to go down to their basement and wrap their pipes. So it's kind of, so students can also can provide this two-way feedback, which I think can be helpful for planning future programming. Well, thank you so much. Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks so much, Nate.
All right.
Awesome job.
Was it two AP classes, right?
So we did 2 high schools, and I think 4 AP classes. Each of those teachers had two classes.
There was about 20 or so per class.
In that class.
Yeah, and it was with COVID, I think there was one class had a few in person and one was all virtual.